Welcome, everybody. Happy Friday to all of y'all out there. You are watching the Morning Update Show, and I am your co-host, Trey Holiday. It's been a week for all of us, and I'm happy to be closing it out with my partner. Y'all know him. Y'all love him. Big O. What up, Big O? Happy Friday.
Trey Holiday. What's up? What's happening?
What's going on, man?
Man, I just know I'm glad that it's Friday. This has been a historic, we don't use that word lightly. It's been a historic week. It's been a historic last 2 weeks, to be honest with you. For a small media company like us, man, we've been stretched trying to keep up with everything going on nationally and locally and some of everything else. Good show lined up for today. We caught up with your guy, with Director Chappelle of DEAL, that's Department of Early Learning and Education. Yes. And they talked about a program that they got for a child care program that's out there and everything else. We're going to start the show with that because, to be honest with you, it's Feel Good Friday, but all the news is bad. So it's bad and it's bound to bring some anxiety to you. So we're actually going to start with this clip from Director Chappelle. And then Julia Jessie, Jules, she's in the house. Julia Jessie from Clapback Culture. President Biden last night,
President-elect. Yeah.
It's Friday, and I know all of our viewers are out there feeling good too. But President-elect Biden had a presser yesterday, or made a statement yesterday. He's talking about big money, y'all, 1.9 trillion. And so now you see, when we just be asking for them 5s and 10s to donate, you know what I'm saying, to put it in perspective, he's talking about spending 1.9 trillion. And by the way, what Converge could do with 1.9 trillion would be amazing. I promise you. So Julia Jessie is going to join us, and we're going to talk about that. And then the other thing is, it's Martin Luther King Day. We're celebrating on Monday, and happy birthday to you. So I know that you got some information about what's going on, how people can celebrate Martin Luther King Day and some everything else, right?
Absolutely. And I'm excited to be bringing you guys that information and closing out my local sweatshirt week. Oh. I am bringing you Build Africa Town. Build Africa Town.
Build Africa. You see the monitor right there. Bring it up a little bit more.
Yes, there we go. Build Africa Town. It's got the logo. There we go. Build Africa Town.
People can see it. Huh?
Yeah. I had to start off with a really strong initiative right here in our town, in our city. Africa Town has a suite of organizations, and they've just been holding it down for many years. Many of you out there in the community know about Africa Town, but please check out africatownlandtrust.org if you're looking for an amazing place to volunteer, to donate. There's another organization for you, so I had to bring it out.
And you can also go to Africa Town Central District on social media. And people, just to connect the dots, when we talk about the Liberty Bank building, and we did the Morning Update show for 2 weeks from the Liberty Bank building. Africa Town Community Land Trust, one of the developers there, and also Africa Town Plaza, which is getting ready to come online. They're breaking ground at later on this year, right over there on 24th and Spring in the Central District.
Absolutely. Nice. Yeah. Closing it out strong.
We got our the very first photo shoot that we did. We were in our Build Africa Town sweatshirts. So good stuff over there. Good to see that. All right. So the rest of the news is kind of like whatever. And you know what I'm saying? We're going to start, before we get into what's going on with DC, with Biden, with all kinds of other stuff, airline restrictions and everything else. We talked to DEAL director Dwayne Chappelle. Man, this dude, I had to end the interview early, and the full interview will be online later on today. It's about 25 minutes where he and Erica Lanier from the Seed of Life Child Care Center are sitting there talking about programs that are available. But, this dude was like, Rainier Beach this, Rainier Beach that. I was like, Director Chappelle, I respect that you're a director here, but, man, you ain't going to keep talking all this reckless Rainier Beach stuff. It's the Garfield Network. But here's Director Chappelle right here talking about programs. And these are all programs that are still available. They're still enrolling. Some people right now, especially our essential workers, are having problems with child care. And it turns out the city of Seattle has a program where either with COVID safe, that your child can actually go into one of 200 different providers, or if you want to keep your child at home, they actually have a at-home program where they'll give you a Kindle and some of everything else. Here's director Dwayne Chappelle.
Well, as you know, it's a hard time for many families right now. And if you work in person, or if you need to keep yourself safe and make decisions about how to help your child learn and stay safe themselves, or if you have the privilege to work from home like I do, then you need to balance your school-age children's remote learning, using all the Wi-Fi in your house while you're actually trying to do your own job. So the Department of Education and Early Learning, as you just mentioned, DEAL, we currently have 2 fantastic programs for families with young children, such as myself, and I'm excited to tell you more about them today. The Seattle Preschool Program, it serves children ages 3 and 4 years old with high quality, affordable preschool that boosts their kindergarten readiness. So we want to make sure that they're ready when they step into kindergarten. And then the second one is the Child Care Assistance Program that serves children's ages 1 month to 12 years old. And CCAP is what we call it. CCAP, it helps families cover the cost of childcare, and you can choose from over 200 childcare providers across the city. And we recently announced that we'll be covering 50% of family copay for the costs from January through March 2021. And that's providing additional assistance that we know many families need at this time. And a specific data fact is that African-Americans are the largest group represented in both of these programs. We have 32% of our Seattle Preschool Program participants are Black or African-American. And then for we have 46% of children being served in the CCAP that are Black or African-American.
Then he started talking about how great Rainier Beach High School was, so I had to cut the transmission. No, no, I'm just playing. But the whole interview's up there. Well, actually, it'll be up there in probably about an hour or two. People can check it out. But man, we talk about some things, and it can be very political, and it's a political landscape. People are running for mayor, and elections and everything else. But sometimes, especially dealing with the city of Seattle, we need to put some politics to the side and really look at some of these programs that are out there that are innovative nationwide that the city of Seattle is doing. And Director Chappelle, we had him on here not too long ago. Remember, they won that silver medal award as one of the top preschool, pre-education programs in America, preparing our children, at an early level of education. And I told Director Chappelle, I said, when you got good news or you need the community to do something, you come on the Morning Update show. And he came on and wanted to tell everybody about this program, these 2 programs.
Well, it's important, at the same time, we got to get the information out there. If they still have slots available, that's the amazing thing. A lot of the times when we see in community, these programs, they fill up really quickly. So the fact that they have a lot of slots, that they know that they have a lot of providers that are throughout the city. Yeah, 200. That is phenomenal, honestly. And that is another reason and another indication of how they're leading the charge.
The city said they'll pay 50% of the copay. And there's sliding scale and there's everything else. And one thing for sure, what Director Chappelle emphasized is for people for in person, went over all the COVID guidelines that are in there, and that's in the interview. But also, if it's like you want to be able to educate your child at home, then they provide those services as well. So that's DEAL, the Department of Early Education Learning. The city got too many acronyms. And you can check that out there. So we started off the show with some really good news. We'll end it some as well with MLK, but man, from there, my friends, the news just gets kind of greasy. So we talked about this briefly the other day, what's going on up there in Shoreline. When people who've been watching the Morning Update show, the history of Shoreline. Shoreline is the city. It's where one of the first civil rights assassinations happened in Shoreline. I think it was 8 or 9 months after Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Edwin T. Pratt, right here from the Central District, or is right here organizing in the Central District, moved his family to Shoreline. There was the very first Black family there in Shoreline, and Edwin T. Pratt was assassinated on his front porch as his family was inside in Shoreline. And Shoreline has come a long way. And, I'm definitely not indicting people who live in Shoreline or anything else. But living in the Central District and knowing the history of Edwin T. Pratt, whenever we hear the city of Shoreline, our ears poke up. Yeah. Here's a clip right here from King 5 News, and they're talking about how Black Coffee Northwest, they had another, they're a victim again of a hate crime.
Joyce, they've closed for a couple of days here over security concerns. The folks here at Black Coffee Northwest are very outspoken about their support for the Black Lives Matter movement, but now someone is trying to silence them.
There's like a swastika here and like here.
The hatred has been washed away, but the damage is done. Does it hurt?
It does hurt. It hurts a lot.
Michaela Weary is just 17 and the president of Black Coffee Northwest, a Black-owned business that hires and trains youth of color so they can open up their own businesses one day. But earlier this week, swastikas were scrawled outside the shop. Michaela, though, is not intimidated.
I see it as a call to action.
Action that's needed to counter the hatred being inflicted here. Just 3 months ago, someone firebombed the business with Molotov cocktails, attempting to burn this business to the ground. Michaela's mom, Darnisha, says the message being sent is, get out. But that's not the message she's hearing.
We're needed here. This space and at this time and who we're serving is what needs to happen here.
Hi. Hello. What can I get for you?
And this community appreciates this business. Once word got out about the vandalism, the line at the drive-thru was 15 cars deep.
Thank you so much.
But Darnisha says among them were people who made offensive comments to the kids working the window.
Why does it have to be called Black Coffee? We already know you're Black. We're having to deal with terrible comments every single day.
In a Facebook post, Black Coffee Northwest announcing it is closing for the next 2 days to increase security and give workers some time to decompress. But Darnisha says they are not going away.
We cannot back down. We have to keep going because we're not going to see the change right now. We're not going to see the big change right now, but in generations to come, we want to keep the work going.
Black Coffee Northwest says it plans to reopen Saturday at 10 a.m. Meantime, police continue their 2 investigations into the incidents here. They say a $10,000 reward is being offered for the arrest of the arsonist. You can send your tips to Shoreline Police. Live in Shoreline tonight, Eric Wilkinson, King 5 News.
Man, it's all bad when Black people can't have a coffee shop called Black Coffee, and coffee really is black.
I mean, you know what? At the end of the day, this is another indication of what we deal with right here in the Pacific Northwest. Black people in the community talk about it all the time. There's this passive aggressiveness that happens, and now we're seeing aggressive, right? I mean, ultimately coming to the shop, these are teenagers working in the window. These are teenage baristas. You know, any white person who's going up there to incriminate or try to intimidate these teenagers should be completely ashamed of themselves. But the truth of the matter is, they are not, because they've been allowed to keep their white privilege, utilizing their white supremacy and all of their white racist ideals and literally flourish in them. This is why they do not fear being caught by doing this, by being discriminatory in their city. We've seen it in Shoreline, like you said, with Edwin T. Pratt. But the truth of the matter is it goes back to them being comfortable in their whiteness and them being comfortable in their white privilege. And this right here will not stand, because Black people across the city, all outside of Shoreline, are going to be coming to support these guys up there at Black Coffee Northwest. This is a shame.
Hold on 1 second. The camera right here. Hey, Jay Grambrut, can we get some black coffee for Triana? Thank you. So we gonna get you some black coffee, right? I mean, but on the real though, you know, this isn't the only story that came out in Shoreline, and you know, Converge. 2 times now, we've actually ran the story. The Early Learning Center there in Shoreline is actually named after Edwin T. Pratt. But you know, it's really weird because years ago, not too long ago, my ex used to live in the Pratt building on Jackson Street. She used to live right there, and it says it's the Edwin Pratt building. It's a market rate apartments there. And I remember I'd go over there and the people in the building would be like, yeah, are you DoorDash? So Uber Eats? And I'm like, well, no, I'm just visiting. And so very interesting here. But if you really look at it there in Shoreline had an issue this summer where kids were chalking, and we see these issues even here in Seattle. People get arrested for chalking, but they were chalking there, and someone tried to run the kids over, hit the kids and some of everything else. But, you know, our ears here in the Central District, our community always go up. Like I said, when you mentioned the city's shoreline, because of the history of shoreline and, you know, Edwin T. Pratt, that was a powerful message that was sent in the assassination of Edwin T. Pratt, the very first Black person, Black family to move in there into Shoreline. He was assassinated on his front porch with his daughter and his wife inside the home.
Well, this is a strong message that they're actually putting forth today, letting us know that their white supremacist ideals, white privilege ideals, their racist ideals are still alive and well. And absolutely, it's not only relegated to Shoreline. We know this, but when we see it full frontal, you know, blatantly in our faces, it is not something we can deny as people in this city. You know, we're so liberal, you know, we're coming together. At the end of the day, this is another example of why it means that, like, community coming together. I love that people heard this story and that their line was flooded with 15 cars in the line of people of all races. It does suck that some folks thought, you know what, let me get in line just so I could spew my hate at the faces of those baristas. That right there really incites me to a certain point. Oh, because ultimately these guys are just trying to run a business and do an amazing cause by allowing young people to understand how business works and to bring them on the business side of things. So to be honest, you know, this coffee shop has the full support of so many in the community.
Well, you say you're going to be up there. I mean, well, the best thing is like they said, and like Darnisha and them said, we ain't never scared. We ain't never scared.
That's
you know what I'm saying? I mean, they ain't packing up and going home, and it's there. And really, to be honest with you, what a great play on words. This is Black coffee. You know, like if this was some white people or anybody else who owned the place, it would be like, hey, well, this is great. I can go get a cup of black coffee, you know. So anyways, you know, I mean, we'll stay on top of this, and we definitely want to send our love and our support to Black Coffee Northwest and Shoreline, and wanted to tell you, man, hold the line, stay strong. You know what I'm saying? We're going to continue to support you. President-elect Biden, I got it right that time. So he came out yesterday, and you know, like, it's a 1.9 trillion. We're gonna play a short clip right here, and we're gonna be joined a little bit later by Julia Jesse, who's breaking down the numbers. But Biden came out and said he has a plan for America's recovery.
With 5 days to go before the inauguration, President-elect Biden is unveiling his plan to fight COVID-19.
The American Rescue Plan that will tackle the pandemic and get direct financial assistance and relief to Americans who need it the most.
The nearly $2 trillion proposal calls for new $1,400 stimulus payments to most Americans, plus $130 billion to reopen schools and $160 billion to build a national vaccine program and boost testing.
The crisis of deep human suffering is in plain sight, and there's no time to waste. We have to act, and we have to act now.
Mentioned Edwin T. Pratt. Look, he caught up right there.
Yeah.
We still caught up in the last story. People talking about this. This Pratt. Back to this right here, and Julia Jesse's going to get into it. Is that $1.9 trillion? It's a lot of bread. It's a lot of cake. It's a lot of cheese, feta, paper, and she's going to break it down. This is Biden's talking about. And, you know, Biden's thing is he's, you know, trying to keep it on. You know, he's trying to keep it on his message, which is cool, but he's talking about money, giving money to people. So, you know, everybody likes that. But we'll get deeper into it.
There's a lot to get into.
He's on his Biden, though.
Mean, yeah,
you know what I'm saying? I mean, we know how, you know, she's on his Biden thing. So
I think there's a lot to get into there. And I'm glad that Julia Jesse is joining us in studio to really break it down, because ultimately that $1,400 stimulus to most Americans is going to mean that they will get the $2,000 that it looks like Trump was stopping, you know, plus that $600 that already was approved. So, you know, this right here is a federal relief plan. I think, you know, what we see is that it is needed right now. There's so many people that are in need. And I love seeing that Biden is taking a progressive measure to say, look, we actually need some direct investment here in these sectors. And he's absolutely right. As
Julia Jesse would tell you, though, it's pretty easy for them because they just printing the money. That's right. You know what I'm saying? We're going to have to pay this back one way or another. The amount of debt that the American people, I mean, what else are you going to do, though, considering what's going on in our country? But we got to be clear. This isn't free money. Ultimately, this is a debt that either we gonna pay, but considering how big the debt is now, it might be them great grandbabies this paying this debt back. So CBS this morning, they talked about how further examination of video there in Washington, D.C., it looks like some of these rioters or insurrectionists use military tactics.
As investigators look over videos from last week's assault on the Capitol, they are learning that some rioters used military-style tactics. Those rioters appeared to use methods like hand signals to communicate, suggesting they had military training. Senior investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge has been looking into this and joins us from Washington. Catherine, what have we learned?
Well, Anthony, good morning. A law enforcement official confirms to CBS News that the identification of rioters who use military-style tactics is a Tier 1 priority for the U.S. Attorney's Sedition Task Force here in Washington. With federal investigators sifting through more than 130,000 digital media tips, some videos stand out.
I ran this by probably 3 or 4 senior SWAT guys, and we all kind of agreed some kind of training.
Scott Sweeto is a former FBI and ATF explosives expert who investigated the 1995 Oklahoma City and 1996 Centennial Olympic Park bombings.
You have all these people that are facing away from the Capitol. They're singing. And then you have this group that is moving quickly and with a purpose up the steps of the Capitol. That's pretty scary when you look at what those people are doing.
Officials say former or current military and law enforcement have already been arrested for participating in last week's attack. The Pentagon says Jacob Fracker, one of 2 off-duty Virginia cops arrested for breaking into the Capitol, is a corporal in the Virginia National Guard. And the Army is still trying to determine the current status of Thomas Robertson, who apparently served at different times both for the National Guard and reserves. CBS News has learned videos like this drew immediate scrutiny because they mirror tactics used by law enforcement and the military to navigate hostile or unknown environments.
What are small unit tactics? Small unit tactics are ways that military can blanket and communicate and try to get to a primary target that they have.
Frank Salufo is a former senior Homeland Security official.
This isn't out of a basement. This isn't playing a whole lot of video games. This is something that there was some training here. There's no question.
Once the Capitol was breached, CBS News has learned a D.C. police officer witnessed some rioters using military-style hand signals to communicate.
It would not be unusual for people to come up with physical signals such as tapping them, pulling on them, something that would work in a crowd where you had a lot of noise and a lot of chaos.
Why is the identification of individuals like this so important to the investigation? At the end of the day, a small number of sophisticated actors can do a whole lot of harm.
This is shaping up to be one of the biggest cases in U.S. history that relies so heavily on videotape evidence. In addition to social media, CBS News has learned that federal investigators are pouring through thousands of hours of security camera video from the Supreme Court, the Library of Congress, and the Capitol itself, as well as police body cam video.
All right. So basically what we're hearing is what we knew that day when we saw it, that the fix is in. And when people talk about it's random people, crowd got out of control. Because, let's be fair, let's be honest. There has been times where it's just some regular peace-loving people get there and a mob gets riled up, and that's why they call it inciting a riot, right? It was actual charge for that, like you incite a riot. This wasn't that, though. And more information that comes out tells you that people were prepared. They had a plan. They're there. Let's hang Pence. Let's kill Pelosi. They got zip ties. I mean, one thing for sure, though, and we reported on this actually on January 5th. We talked about it. We weren't the only ones. So many media across America talked about it the day before, said, man, this is going to get funky. And they're going there to stop the actual count of the votes, and they came there prepared. They said they were going to do it, and these people did exactly what they said they were going to do, and very prepared to do it. Trey Holiday.
Yeah, this is, again, as they said, one of the biggest cases in American history, relying heavily on video, and it is because they have thousands of videos.
They were voting. No mask, no nothing.
I mean, they were, and they have thousands of people who have cell phone video. It was up on social media platforms. I mean, different accounts. They are able to comb through all of that data, find these people. I mean, again, like you said, no mask. They were like probably thinking they were not going to get caught. And I love how one of the clips that we ran earlier this week, the FBI was saying, look, if you were up there in the Capitol, trust me, we know who you are. We're coming for you. And this is something we're going to continue to have to report on, because I know this is going to be a long-standing investigation. Once again, that was thousands of people out there, and it was thousands that went in there.
I'll be honest with you, though. They coming for him, and there was a occupational therapist that worked for Cleveland School District, and the therapist, she resigned that next day. I guess January 7th, she ended up resigning, but she was the one who was on the Senate floor. There's an occupational therapist over there. I think we can go to the wide camera. Oh yeah, Jake Grabrod has something for us over here. Come on, Jake. We're going back. We're going back to our earlier story. We've got Jake Grabrod here.
Thank you, Jake.
Appreciate you, Mr. Grabrod. Hold on. Let's give a cheers. We got some black coffee right here, and we're gonna give a cheers to Black Coffee North. There we go. We're gonna give a cheers to Black Coffee Northwest. We got our black coffee right here. And you know what I'm saying? You guys stay strong up there. We mad supportive of what you're doing, and we here for you.
Absolutely. Cheers to y'all. Exactly. Thank you, Jake.
Appreciate you, Mr. Grabrod. You know what I'm saying? We want our black coffee. I don't even drink black coffee, but now on, I'm drinking black coffee in support of Black Coffee Northwest. But this is what I was saying, and as more information continues to come out, it's going to be more. It's going to be very interesting, and we see this. And this is what we were saying, though, is that there's so many people. Like I said, this was an occupational therapist for the Cleveland School District I'm talking about. And people have this vision in their head that it was somebody in some bunker somewhere in a swamp who's whatever. No, man. I mean, this is America. And, we're very divided right now. And I tell you that even here in Seattle or any city in America, a lot of people that we bump into every day have very strong feelings about the election, about how it turned out, and some of everything else. And it's important. We've been saying this here on Converge before the election, even now. It's important that we have conversations and we really get an understanding as to what's really going on. My mom always says ignorance isn't bliss.
Right. Absolutely, it's not. And I think we need to be educated right now. I am feeling that same pressure on the roads. I'm telling you, it is a little bit different where this polarization is now beginning to infect all of our lives. I mean, when you're at your grocery store, when you're at your coffee shop, when you are, picking your kid up from, this care facility or going to the hospital, to the doctor's office. These things are still in play, even with COVID. And you got to be honest here that when we start seeing all of the names and people that are coming out, it is not just law enforcement or military folks. It is our neighbors. It really is. It's people that live amongst us. And it is important for us to be educated and try to have those discussions whenever we can, because, there's a lot of people that are still in the neutral space, but we need to be having those conversations, though.
Right. And a local story here, actually from King 5, but with national implications, because it represents that airlines all over America are taking special security precautions as we move into the inauguration. They're not allowing guns and the firearms to now be checked onto the plane. If you're flying into Washington, D.C., you have to be in your seat 1 hour before landing. So 1 hour in the takeoff and 1 hour before landing. You use the bathroom before you get on the plane. It's serious business. This is a clip here from King 5 where they're talking about some of the security precautions that Alaska Airlines is taking.
That's right, Joyce. Heightened security around Inauguration Day is normal and to be expected. But this time around, airlines are stepping it up in ways we haven't seen in recent years. Delta, United, and American Airlines are barring passengers from putting guns in checked bags. Beginning on Friday, Alaska Airlines will do the same, on top of limiting the number of tickets purchased for flights to and from the D.C. metro area and requiring all passengers to stay seated 1 hour after takeoff and an hour before landing.
This is more of a caution than probably we're going to need, but I would not want to see anything less than that.
Aviation analyst and veteran pilot John Nance says a 1 hour seating policy is typical of any inauguration day following 9/11. But this year, the enhanced security measures are warranted after Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol.
Well, since 9/11, the typical inauguration day was one of excitement, but not anything like the threats that have been going on here following last week's insurrection.
In order to keep flyers safe during Inauguration Day events, Alaska Airlines says it already has plans in place should a plane need to turn back or be diverted.
Well, I think that's exactly what should be done. The captains, in conjunction with the company and operations, should be already ready and able to go to an alternate plan if anybody causes any problem in the back or there's any suspicion.
Alaska Airlines has set up a dedicated command center to keep tabs on all of its flights in and out of the D.C. metro area. The airline says it is enforcing all of these new changes in order to keep travel safe and respectful. Live at SeaTac tonight, Britt Moore, King 5 News.
So we see here that the airline, man, this is, I'm Joe Biden. Like, the real Joe Biden got to be like, man, be careful what you wish for. Even though it'll be president, he's like, man, he ran for president all these times, everything else. He's finally president. There's a pandemic. The economy's all bad. The Capitol's on lockdown. People can't come in. You know what I'm saying? He had his fan band from Delaware get Airbnbs. Airbnb is canceled and now refunded all Airbnbs in the DMV area. Hotel Tonight. There's a lot of websites now. They're not even renting rooms or anything. And it's like, your man Biden is like, damn.
For his inauguration, it's going down. I mean, clearly, it really takes me back to when Trump came into office and he wanted to say that he had the most people at his inauguration ever. And when the report started coming out and they showed the sparse crowd, it's unfortunate that Joe Biden did not bring this on himself, but he may have a very sparse crowd as well. I'm going to tell
you this. I can really see President Trump tweeting a photo on the 20th being like, well, see, my crowd was bigger than Biden's. Right. Because, nobody's going to be there. We're going to talk to Julia Jesse in a minute. And Julia Jesse actually lives right there in Washington, D.C. and works within that political ecosystem there. But yeah, man, D.C., ghost town. Moving along here real quick, I really thought I came across this and we got a short clip from Nikki Barron on COVID update that we're going to play later on in the show. But I thought that people should really see like what's going on down in LA County, and other parts of America. Seattle, we have to keep in mind here that Seattle, of all the big cities in America, when you talk about the 30 biggest cities, we have the lowest COVID rate of any big city in America. And that's because a lot of innovative tactics for our city. It's a lot of people here are very compliant about wearing masks. And even though King County, we see spikes down there in South King County, our county as a whole is one of the most competitive counties when you talk about combating coronavirus. And even our hospitalizations that are here, a lot of the hospitalizations come from not necessarily directly in Seattle, but we have, the top level healthcare here and everything else. This is a story, ABC News this morning. What's going on in LA and other places across the country?
In Los Angeles County, 1 in 3 people now have contracted COVID. The grim work of managing that toll falls on the LA coroner's office. Teams, including National Guard troops, laying out body bags, then moving the bodies into refrigerated containers.
Antelope Valley Hospital has one of the busiest ERs in the state of California, with 30 to 40 people waiting for beds at any given time. And that's why they received this field hospital with 50 beds that is typically deployed to disaster zones like Iraq or Haiti.
Ambulances gridlocked outside the ER. Inside, gurneys one behind another. But at this field hospital, built in just 5 days, the only thing missing is oxygen.
We need a large quantity of oxygen at all times, constantly. We can't ever run out, because if we run out,
they could die.
They could die.
The nation's death toll is now approaching 400,000. Last week's toll was 25% higher than at any other time during the pandemic. Amid the crush of patients, a rush to vaccinate. But some cities warn they're running out of doses.
We don't have enough supply to go beyond phase 1 at this time.
The shortage forcing some cities to slow the vaccine rollout to lower risk people.
We are not going to be able to open up and expand to other groups until that vaccine opens up in supply.
And in areas where shots are in stock, appointments are not.
There was not 1 ounce of availability on any site.
Phone lines jammed, websites crashing. This location booked through April.
There's nowhere to turn. There's no options, no matter how smart you are.
These homebound individuals have been overlooked, and it's frustrating.
Officials in New York say there's a growing concern about older people unable to leave their homes to get their shot because they can't walk or don't know how to book an appointment.
They are computer illiterate, and I can't imagine how many people in their shoes are dealing with similar problems.
You know, this is an issue right here. This is an issue right here when we talk about with COVID. You talk about LA County, and also in this clip, it really kind of broke down. It's like, man, our elders, and you know, it's almost like our elders have been left behind on this from day one. You know, and what they talked about right there is so many of our elders might be computer illiterate, might be this and that, everything else. But you see down there in LA County, they're laying out the body bags. They're laying them out. I mean, someone dies there in LA County every 8 minutes from COVID. And now they've got refrigerated trucks. The Army had to go and build field hospitals to be able to get people there and everywhere else. And we don't see that here in Seattle. Like I said, of the top 30 cities in America, Seattle is actually the lowest. You know, and also something else we don't see that we see in other cities, like we see in Dallas and everywhere else. Oops, people over in line at food banks, 5, 6, 7 hours in line at food banks. There, you know, I only say that to say, well, I guess 1 or 2 things that, like, it's hard to understand our position that we're in Seattle unless you really look at what's going on in the rest of the country. But I also say that to say this. There's a big problem going on right now in the rest of the country.
No, there really is. And I'm glad that you make that comparison, because right here, it isn't something that we have to deal with necessarily. I mean, I live in Federal Way, and there is a testing site over by at the Aquatic Center. And literally, you know, when COVID was first hitting, there was lines all down the block. But now they've got it so well that you can drive by there. I went and got a COVID test and it was no problem. I drove right up. You know what I'm saying? So to see these lines, to see people having no access and internet breaking down, this is a real travesty upon our nation. And it's really on the regular citizens that are dealing with it.
The vaccine, that's another issue, you know, that we're seeing across the country. I mean, we get tested here a lot. And the reason that we can is how many blocks away, Jake, is the place? 2 blocks away is a free walk-up testing location here in Seattle. And in less than 24 hours, you're getting results. People aren't seeing these kind of things in other parts of America. And, you know, clearly when you talk to Seattle King County Public Health, when you talk to the city of Seattle and things, there's more they can do. There's more that they want to do or whatever. But we should really acknowledge right here that Seattle and King County is definitely a leader when you're talking about this fight against COVID compared to the rest of the nation. And man, our condolences down there. You imagine they're just laying out body bags.
And the thing is that it was disheartening to see, but it's also so realistic. It is a stark reality that we really have to face right now, because when they have to put up these major tents and they're throwing body bags and did these refrigerated vans, whatever, that to me just seems ridiculous. Yet that is the truth. It's almost like, you know, watching a movie play out before your very eyes about the end of times or something. And yet it's actually people's reality, man. That's just the truth of what we're dealing with right now.
The pandemic will be televised. One last clip here before we go to break. And when we come back from break, we're going to talk with Julia Jesse about the STEMI You see that meme where there was all these people there. I think they were the house floor and people were pandemonium, and it was like the one dude who was sitting there. It was like he's looking for the stimmy. So we're going to talk to Julia Jesse about the stimmy. Interesting story right here. This is from ABC News. Talks about an officer who was there. Was being called a heroic action. This officer happens to be Black. There was a lot of officers there from all kinds of different ethnic backgrounds and colors who did act heroically. And, we talk about how there are some officers who are definitely in on it. They're in on it 100%. But the overwhelming majority of them stood their ground and fought the best they could. Here's a clip right here on ABC News about an officer who's being called a hero.
Finding tonight here what one officer did at the Capitol, and he has said at that moment, "My job is to protect and serve," and that day, I was protecting. It was the moment the country has now seen. Capitol Police Officer Eugene Goodman holding back the rioters, leading them up these stairs, radioing in their location. Second floor! At the top of the stairs, you see Officer Goodman look to the left. He sees the open doors to the Senate chamber where members of Congress were sheltering. And so then that push to get the rioters to go in a different direction. He draws them toward another room where backup is waiting. Goodman is an Army veteran deploying with the 101st Airborne Division to Iraq. Tonight, the 101st Airborne Division saying, quote, Eugene Goodman stood in the doorway that day. We see you, Eugene. And tonight, a bipartisan group of lawmakers saying they will introduce a bill now to award Officer Goodman the Congressional Gold Medal, one of the nation's highest honors, to say thank you and to honor his bravery. His bravery seen by the nation and by the world.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Back on this rap-ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't missing my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own, tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. My name is Omari Salisbury, co-host here. It's Feel Good Friday. It's been a lot of crap news, but we've been trying to stay above the fray over here. Big shout out to Jake Grabrot for bringing me my black coffee in support of Black Coffee Northwest. You know what I'm saying? And also, you can pick up those mugs on whereweconverge.com/shop. You know what I'm saying? No better place than for you to take your mug up to Black Coffee and roll it out. But in studio now, we have Julia Jesse. A lot of you guys know her from Clapback Culture, and Julia's here to break down the stimmy. What's up, Julia?
Yes, I am. Hey, what's up, O? Happy to be here. Happy to be in studio with you guys.
Good to see you, too. And I see that you're in our limited edition breast cancer awareness shirts. And, you know, we've only got a few of these left, and this is a great opportunity for people out there to go online, order these shirts right here. Even though Breast Cancer Awareness Month was in October, we're still supporting the Sierra Sisters. The Sierra Sisters is an organization that lends support to women of color who are going through breast cancer.
Yeah,
breast cancer treatment.
It's awesome. Happy to support and promote.
All right, well, you're looking good in there too. So, all right, Julia Jesse. Joe Biden,
President-elect.
President-elect. This dude got a lot of titles.
He does.
And really, depending on who you talk to, They go down from regular to all the way down. But Biden came out last night. He had this speech, and he was really like, man, I mean, it really must feel good, to be honest with you, to be in a position to be like, hey, everybody, I'm going to give you some money. And $1.9 trillion is what Biden talked about last night. Tell us all about it, Julia.
Yeah. So I don't know if he feels good about having to offer up so much money, but let's break this down. So there's a lot to cover, you guys. So I'm going to go through some of my notes. This plan is actually going to be broken out into 2 phases. And so we have the first plan that he talked about being this rescue plan. And that's what's on the screen right now. It's a $1.9 trillion plan. And we're going to break down a little bit on how it's going to be spent. So what does this mean for the everyday American? We have $1,400 rolling out for those stimulus payments. And so we know some people already got those $600 payments. And so an additional $1,400 will be on that. And he's also going to increase the $400 unemployment insurance benefit. So it's currently $300. He's going to increase it to $400 a week. And that's going to be really helpful to the 1.2 million Americans that just filed new unemployment insurance claims this January in the first week of the new year. So that's crazy. And we still have 18 million Americans who are unemployed. There's going to be an investment made to increase SNAP benefits. And, President-elect Biden really talked about that. He talked about the hunger crisis and people not being able to have access to food and the millions of children that are going without food. He talked about the investments being made to the WIC program. And one thing else is increasing that minimum wage payment from, to $15 an hour. There's also one thing to talk about that I think is huge is rental assistance and pausing evictions through September. And I know a lot of Americans were worried about how am I going to pay my rent and what's going to happen when rent does, when I have to start paying my rent again, and am I being subjected to eviction? So that is now going to be on pause should this bill be approved. Moving forward, one thing about it is we can't do anything until we get this vaccine approved. And so we have a substantial investment being rolled out into the vaccine plan. That is, $20 billion going into the national vaccine plan, $50 billion, for expanding coronavirus testing and to hire an army of, about 100,000 public health workers to really help this rollout plan. And we know if we can't get the coronavirus under control, then really none of this is going to matter. And so those big substantial investments. Now let's talk about what it means for businesses and local governments. For businesses, $350 billion for struggling businesses and local governments. I mean, that aid is necessary. Joe Biden also talked a lot about supporting Black businesses and women-owned businesses. And so that's super important to have those investments being made because a lot of these businesses are struggling. There's also more money out right now for that PPP, that Payment Protection Program. So if you are a small business, go out there now and apply for that. Get some funding to support your payroll. That's critical right now. Another thing for small businesses that he talked about, Amari, was, $15 billion in small grants to small businesses, as well as some seed money, as much as $175 billion in low interest business loans. So that's huge. There's also an investment being made into public transportation. So $1.9 trillion, though, I mean, it's broken down pretty well. I mean, I'm just glad to see that we have a president who is really, really, really giving us a full plan. You know me, I like a strategy. I like a plan. I like to implement. So this is good news for me and the American people.
I ain't see Converge Media in the plan.
Oh, you know where you are.
We'll bring this back up. You guys made it slide. I'll see conversion anywhere in the plant. So, it's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And what we've seen as of late, no matter who the president has been, the last few administrations is like, the money will get printed. But this is a lot of bread.
It's a lot of bread. And you know what? It's also what's important to understand is this money has not been approved yet. So, Joe Biden's strategy to get this approved is that he's really leaning on local elected officials and local governments like mayors to lean on their congressional lawmakers to make this pass. So he's really looking for a bipartisan kind of support on this. I know that we have a majority in the House and the Senate, but he's really looking to have people work together to make this happen, Omari. So it's going to be a heavy lift. It's a bold plan. It's a lot of money. It's in addition to the $900 billion that they just passed last month. So like you said, the American people are going to have to pay this back. This is not free money. But
the thing is when you talk about having to pay it back, and this is what me and Bay Holiday was talking about from day one when they first started coming with this quaint, with these quaints and putting them in the streets, is following the money. And I mean, how confident are you? We don't know because he's not in office. But a lot of that money, the majority of that money, it really passed Black people by. And when we talk about follow the money, is any of this money really actually going to reach our community? Because, it sounds cool, this and that, when focus on Black people, blah, 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 they want to raise this. And also something he said was kind of bold. He said he wanted to raise the minimum wage nationwide. Here in the city of Seattle, minimum wage is already $15 within a municipality. But do you think this money in this plan is actually going to reach us? Because Trump put a lot of money in the streets too.
Right.
It ain't reach us. This is the same, it's a different president, but it's the exact same infrastructure as far as how money is now allocated and sent out. Are Black people actually going to get any of this $1.9 trillion?
Well, Omari, I think you raise a great point. And do I think Black folks are going to see this money come to their tables? I think a lot of the American people will see this at their table should they apply. And a lot of this money is about applications and really, if you have a smaller local business, actually, taking the time to fill out the applications like the PPP, that's a super easy application to do. So it's really going to be about, pulling up and having a seat at that table. Do I think we're going to see the investments like we kind of want to be made, like we talk about on the clapback culture? I think the jury is still a little bit out on that. But a lot of substantial increases. We definitely need that stimulus money, that additional $1,400 that they talked about. We really need to see those investments made in SNAP and WIC. A lot of the rental assistance programs that is going to support Black people. It's going to support all American people. So I think the jury is still out on how much it's going to help the community of color. But I'm sure I'll be around to talk about it.
All right. Well, and that being said, that I'm hopeful, and we'll see what happens. Julia Jesse, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me
for the deep dive here on the STEMI. And man, you guys can catch Julia Jesse every Thursday. Her and Mike Davis every Thursday from 7 to 8 on the Clapback Culture. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, some good news for Boona Coffee, and we're talking about Martin Luther King holiday. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Back on this rap ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't missing my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
All right. She lets us know this is director back there. Well, go ahead. They can hear you now. You might as well laugh and do it. It's Friday, Oya. It's okay. Did you see Oya's face? She was like, they can hear me.
She was ready to freeze in mid-sentence. What?
That's our very exceptional and amazing director, Oya D'Alessandro. And it's Friday. And, Friday we always thank everybody anyway. But we got to thank Oya earlier for her exceptional work. And also, Oya directed last night. Clapback Culture was the first time they did it here in the studio. She said she had a good time.
Yeah. Those guys, man, we were here late, man. I was here later than normal, man. It was so good to be able to be here and have conversation with Mike Davis and Julia Jesse, man. You know what? To be honest, man, Converge really brings the brilliance, man, to the table. I was able to touch base with Fly Be Unique. You know what I'm saying? Mike Davis, Julia Jesse, Eric Calligraphy was in the building, man. We were out here.
I did. Mike Davis was that tall, man. He's like 7'1" or something, right?
I'm like, dang, what up, Mike?
It's a good stuff. Because the thing is, it's like, everybody, we're a very small company here, and people are very dedicated to the time that they commit here. I was like, man, I've got to ask Oya to do me a solid and come in and direct Clapback Culture. She was like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna come and do it. But by the time the show was over with, Oya was like, man, this is a really dope show with some really great hosts. So, if you're not hip to it yet, Clapback Culture every Thursday right here from 7 to 8 o'clock with Julia Jesse, who you just saw, Mike Davis from the South Seattle Emerald. You can catch past episodes not only across our social media platforms, but across all of our podcast platforms as well.
Absolutely, man. They're doing great work. And, again, it's just a beautiful thing to see our Converge team grow, our Converge family grow the way that it has. So love being a part of Converge.
Yeah, for sure. So we got some good news. It is Feel Good Friday, and we couldn't get out of here without some good news. And this comes from Eater. Eric Calligraphy was in Eater. It was very interesting. Eater did an article during CHOP. They were like, hey, what's the food you can get during CHOP? And Eric Calligraphy and Bobby Stills are actually there in Eater. But Renton's rising coffee star, Boon Boona, is coming to Capitol Hill. And actually, it's some Boon Boona coffee that Jake Grabrot made back there. Boon Boona, Nikki Barron had actually did a Food Friday segment with Boon Boona not too long ago. And they gave us some coffee, and so he's back there brewing it. But basically, the Capitol Hill scene is about to get an exciting new resident. Renton's Boon Boona, a growing 2-year-old coffee and roastery, will soon debut its first Seattle location in the neighborhood. The shop will be located on 1223 Cherry Street, replacing Cherry Street Coffee House, and aims to open at some point this spring. Any thoughts, Trey?
You know what? I'm just loving this, man, because honestly, the local coffee scene is huge here. We know that, right? Starbucks corporate is right here in Seattle, but I love seeing the emergence of these amazing locally owned coffee shops. Shout out to places like Boon Boona. We were just talking about Black Coffee Northwest. Cafe Evolve is going to be breaking ground in their building at LBB. So it's exciting to see this kind of resurgence of these owners that are really locally rooted and bringing coffee to the community, man. I love it, man. Great job, Boon Boona.
All right. And we got an article here, but I'm going to defer it over to you. But you can we encourage people to go and visit our partners over at the South Seattle Emerald, and you can read more about this. The annual Seattle Martin Luther King Jr. Day March encourages you to get into some good trouble. And when you talk about good trouble, that's the late Congressman John Lewis talking about some good trouble. You can read more about this at SouthSeattleEmerald.com. Trey Holiday, what's some good trouble that's going on Monday?
You know what? I just got to give a great shout out to the MLK Jr. Organizing Coalition. They pulled it off this year. We had to make adjustments in the community to make sure that it's virtual, that it's safe. So the workshops are virtual. They will be throughout the day on Saturday. And then Monday, it will be the rally starting at 11 a.m. at Garfield. And the march is going to start at 12. The route for the march is going to leave from Garfield High School. It's going to actually go right past Odessa Brown. I think Dr. Ben Danielson is expected to speak there, really talk about, the reason why he left, talk about this resurgence of, really claiming what is right and saying, look, when we see racist practices, we say something. You see something, you say something. And that is what he has done with his career by removing himself from Children's Hospital. So it'll be great because they're going to go right past Odessa Brown. They're going to end at the prosecutor Dan Satterberg's office on 5th, so hey, it's going from the CD right here in our, James A. Garfield High, where it always starts, and it's going to travel down and end up there. So you know what? I'm excited because Monday, it looks like I'll be trying to go live from the rally, man. I'm excited because honestly, this is something that our community looks forward to. And I will say that when we talk about Good Trouble, one of the things they did that I love the most is their flyer for this year. If you guys have time, go check out MLK Jr. Organizing Coalition's website. They have Dr. Martin Luther King every year. I just think their flyers are so poignant, right? So it's Dr. King when he was there, and it's an animated picture of him holding up his sign as he was getting arrested during the marches. This is Good Trouble ultimately because really it is about the education of our community, and we see so many people come out to this event every year. I am excited that they were able to pivot. People, please wear your mask. They do encourage, if you're not feeling well, please do not attend. They are encouraging socially distance, hand sanitizer, all of the things. So we do want to make sure you're safe out there, but come on and join us if you can.
Sounds like Monday is going to be, oh, there we go. The director's pointing to the wide. Excuse me. Sounds like Monday is actually going to be a very exciting day. There's going to be a lot going on. Martin Luther King Day, and we're finalizing our programming here. Actually, we have a call with the Black Heritage Society of Washington State once we get off air. It's an interesting time, and this holiday is actually right on time. One thing that Martin Luther King Jr. talked about amongst many is that America living up to its promise. Living up to the words. These documents are pretty amazing. Yeah. And the challenge is for us to be able to live up to those documents. And, when you talk about Good Trouble and you talk about the late Representative John Lewis and going all the way back there to the Edmund Pettus Bridge on Bloody Sunday in Selma, Alabama. But, his experience there, it didn't jade him. It refined him even more. And I think we saw that when the congressman passed, and on both sides of the aisle, people said that this was the conscience of the Congress. And this was somebody, and I only bring this up because now more than ever in our country, we really need to be able to speak to people who feel differently than us, people who have a different ideology than us, people who think different than us. Because, we're never going to get past this state that we're in right now that's so polarizing if we don't take the lead of somebody like a Representative John Lewis, who was very clear in his convictions and what he wanted to see achieved, but he had a willingness to have a conversation with anybody. And even locally, the stories are like that of Sam Smith. Sam Smith, the very first Black city council member here. Sam Smith would be like, I don't really agree with you, but let's talk about it. And I'm hopeful going into Martin Luther King Jr. Day here in America, that we can reposition ourselves. We can err on the side of humanity, and we can err on the side of understanding, and just try to find a way just to understand a little bit more about each other.
Absolutely. And you know what, for anybody in this city that has participated in the MLK March and rally, what you do see out there is a rainbow coalition of ethnicities, everybody coming together to really celebrate and honor what Dr. King was all about. The peaceful protest and the peaceful nature continues, y'all. So come on and join us. And like you said, get into some good trouble.
It's good trouble, man. All right. Any last words before we get out of here, Trey Holiday?
Tomorrow, there's another event. Mediums Collective, as I said yesterday, is putting on a major event at Pratt Park, 11 to 4. It'll be great. There'll be amazing vendors out there, great artists doing performances. I'll be speaking. I'm excited. There's a lot going on. And then you guys can also be looking at the MLK workshops that'll be virtual. So, there's lots going on this weekend, man.
All right, good stuff. We're around, and we're busy. We're busy this weekend too. We got a lot of production going on, but it's Friday, and again, we just want to say thank you to you, our viewers, to our supporters, to everybody out there. Some people support us financially. A lot of people support us with just well wishes and emails and messages saying keep it up, and we support you. And so we're thankful for all those as well. Our production staff, our director, Olia D'Alessandro, and of course, Bobby Stills, the postman, Jake Gravbrot, super producer Nikki Barron, Eric Calligraphy. Eric Calligraphy.
I mean, our team
out there.
Right.
Yeah, Sam. We had Onika Gilmay, Jordan Oils, Lakeith Aspie. It goes on and on. It's an incredible team here, and we're so thankful for all of them. We're thankful for you. As for the morning update show, we'll be back on Monday at 11 a.m. And next week we got some really heavy stories. I interviewed the Inspector General for the Seattle Police Department yesterday, and that interview is going to play next week. And also our suicide prevention. We wanted to air it yesterday. There was a lot of it was just we didn't have the capacity. I'll just be honest with everybody. And there's also some more interviews that we want to put in that. That's a very special episode for us. So that's going to air next week too. All that being said, thank you. God bless you. We appreciate you. And until Monday at 11 a.m., peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun.